Secretary Bronson.
Here.
But otherwise, have a good meeting.
Chairperson Greenwood.
Here. And we're live.
Chairperson Piacenza.
Here.
Chairperson Aya.
Here.
Vice President Cloutier. And myself, present. All right. Welcome back, everyone. We are down our secretary today. Secretary Kilday is doing an Earth Day event right now. So happy Earth Day to everyone. If we end early, I do encourage you to go partake in some of the various events that are going on around campus that have to do with that. But let's not waste any time. Now into the acceptance of the minutes. At this time, I move for Student Senate to accept the minutes from the 4/8/2025 meeting.
Second.
Are there any additions, revisions, or deletions to this minutes? This is the transitions minutes. Okay, seeing none, we will do a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. Next, we will do the minutes from the 4/15 meeting. So at this time, I move for Senate to accept the minutes from the 4/15/2025 meeting.
Second.
All right, are there any additions, revisions, or deletions to those minutes? Seeing none, we'll move for a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. Before we get into new and existing business, the technology policy for today has been waived for two reasons. One, there are a metric buttload of documents that we all need to look at today. And then two, and this is something that I did not announce, we will be doing our voting through the announcements group me. So you can sign into it on your laptop or your phone. We are not going to be doing roll call votes today. So please take your phones out, take your laptops out, get that set up. Is there anyone that is not in the group me? Okay. So we should be all set with that. If there's an issue during the voting, please raise your hand, and myself or Vice President Cloutier will try our best to address it. But we are going to start with the appointment of the Campus Relations Chairperson. So at this time, I move for Student Senate to accept my appointment of William McKiernan to be the Campus Relations Chairperson for the 2025-2026 term.
Second.
I'm going to allocate 3 minutes to this conversation. Will definitely impress myself and Vice President Cloutier during his interview. I outlined most of my reasoning in the letter that I sent to you all, which I hope you all have read at this point. But something that I really do want to highlight is the relations aspect of this role. He really shook my expectations for that aspect of this role. I think he is going to push the envelope when it comes to how exactly that role functions in that capacity. And I feel like after hearing him talk about his plans for it, I feel like we haven't been doing our best with that part of this role. But I hope going forward we will be. So I'm going to open the floor to questions or comments about this appointment. Okay, seeing none, give me 1 second because this is the first time that we are doing a vote like this. I'm going to put a poll into the group me. It will be anonymous too, so these are blind ballots going forward. I'm going to have the poll. It's going to end at 1, but I'm going to read the results before then, and after that, no other results will be accepted. Not letting me post it. There we go. There's an option for e-board, by the way.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
So you guys
Oh my goodness.
You're not voting. There's an option for e-board.
Oh, nice. Oh my god, yay. I lost that a long time ago.
Yes. 6 votes are in.
22.
Yeah, 19.
It's like people not with how much it should.
I have no idea.
So, 1, 2, and then everybody.
I think I have to, right?
Yeah. What's not?
Can't mess up on the first
Yeah,
day.
but then we have absences. Does anyone else need any more time to vote? Okay, I'm going to end the poll now. With 19 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 2 abstentions, the motion passes. I'll have you come up here and take the oath with me. Please raise your right hand and repeat after picture time first. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, William McKiernan,
Do solemnly swear that I will,
do solemnly swear that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
fulfill the duties and responsibilities
fulfill the duties and responsibilities
of Campus Relations Chairperson,
of Campus Relations Chairperson,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
uphold and follow
uphold and follow
the policies of the Student Senate and the Student Senate Constitution.
the policies of the Student Senate and Student Senate Constitution.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first step in setting up a Senate administration has been complete. The executive board is now filled. Next, we are going to move into the approval of the treasurer plans, but before I hand the floor off to Treasurer Piacenza, I do want to just quickly go over the budget level definitions for everyone really quickly so you all understand what exactly a level is, because I know not everyone might have that understanding. Going forward, there is going to be a new level. This level is not indicative of funding. And going forward, clubs and organizations are no longer going to be entitled to funding just because they are recognized. When we recognize them, it will give them access to the campus, give them access to our community. They can get external funding, they can set up their own accounts. But just because we recognize them does not mean we are going to give them money. As the Senate, we have a job to do in allocating this activities revenue money. And if groups are not going to be putting that money towards activities, we will not be funding them. And that's just plain and simple. This status or level is just going to be called recognition status. As soon as a group is approved by the legislative committee and by the Senate, they automatically go into recognition status. I think this is going to open a lot more doors than it is going to shut. A lot of stuff needs to be worked out with it still. We want to look into possibly making these groups a mix of graduate and undergraduate groups. Because again, graduate students do not pay into the student activities fee. And there are ways that you can draw those lines, but there might be things that they want to collaborate with undergraduates on, and they could be self-sustaining. Or groups that simply don't need funding could exist under this tier, and they just simply want to meet and market themselves and just do meetings. So we'll look into that. Myself, Treasurer Piacenza, Legislative Chairperson Maya, Vice President Cloutier will be working on documentation of that going forward, and it will be included in the level definitions. But we are going to start using that status this term. Again, these clubs and organizations are approved and recognized by our Senate, but they do not receive an allocation. This can be because they didn't request an initial budget allocation in time. They were created at the end of the spring semester. They committed a severe violation of policies from the Student Senate, student involvement, or the university. They consistently violated minor policies from the Student Senate, student involvement, or the university, and failed to address them in a timely manner. They overspent their previous year's allocation by a significant amount, or they are not aligned with the policies we require of funded clubs and organizations again. Or they also could just request not to receive an allocation, which some groups already did. So those groups will fall under this group. or this level. They are allowed to operate book rooms, act as a club. They don't receive allocation for a variety of reasons. We encourage them to try and host events and grow and maybe work towards that status, but they're not mandated to. They, again, can seek external support, and they can also institute dues upon their members, because we do have policies in regards to dues with club sports, not necessarily clubs, that's as they feel necessary. Groups that will naturally fall into here often include interest groups in early stage of developments, niche or low-cost organizations, clubs that simply seek the recognition and don't need financial resources, clubs that have a lot of external financial resources, clubs and organizations that were a starter or level A and failed to spend a significant amount of their budget in the previous year with no explanation. They can request to partner with Senate on events or request an initial allocation the following year. They can also request, and under certain very specific circumstances, the treasurer can recommend additional allocations to them if they have budget lines set up. Again, as a Senate, we're responsible to make sure that the activities revenue promotes campus activities first, then everything else after. If we are not doing campus activities, we're not being good stewards of that money. That is why this tier will exist going forward. Again, everything that is included under this tier is determined by our treasurer and their recommendations as approved by us as the Senate in consultation with the Office of Student Involvement, specifically Director Grimm. Then we have starter clubs and organizations, newly created clubs, $150 to $250 in allocation or in initial allocations. They typically don't receive additional allocations, but exceptions are granted under the treasurer of the Student Senate. They must be active for at least a year before they can submit for a level increase. And after they've been around for a year, they are automatically moved up to A. They must host one event in either semester after their creation, and those events must be accessible to the entire Western New England community. They typically consist of 4 e-board members and at least 15 general members, as that's what's required to officially start a group before it even gets to us for approval. They're generally small in scale and operation. Level A is 250 to 750. They can request additional allocations at any time. They can request a level increase at any time. They must host 2 events per academic year, one in the fall and one in the spring is recommended. Events must be, again, accessible to the entire community. They also typically consist of 15 to 20 general members and 4 e-board members. They may be newly created or former starter clubs. They're generally small in scale and operation, and inclusion in this level, again, is up to our treasurer. As approved by the Senate. Level B's 750 to 1250. Again, same, can request additional allocations or level increases at any time. They are mandated to host 4 events. We recommend 2 and 2 for the semesters. Again, still typically consists of that 15 to 20 range of general members, most likely the 20 range with 4 e-board members. Generally not newly created, operate on a medium scale, again, determined by our treasurer as approved by us each year. Initial allocation, or for level C's, initial allocations range between 1250 and 1750. They can request additional allocations at any time, level increases at any time. They are mandated to host 6 events per academic year, 3 in the fall and 3 in the spring is what's recommended. Events must be accessible to the entire community. We recommend that they have 20 to 25 general members with 4 e-board members minimum, usually not newly created. They operate on a larger scale, and again, as determined by the treasurer and the Senate upon approval of their initial allocation. Level D's, those allocations are proposed by the treasurer and approved by Senate via a vote. They can request additional allocations at any time. We recommend that they host 8 events per year, but the final event requirement will be determined by the Office of Student Involvement going forward. So if you are a level D club or organization, that mandate will not come from us, it will come from that office. Typically they'll hover around 8 events, but again, it could be more. Or maybe in a very unique circumstance, it might be less, but most likely not. They typically consist of more than 25 general members and 4+ executive board members. They're generally not newly created. These are typically our historic clubs and organizations on campus. They operate on a very large scale, and groups that fall under this level are determined by the treasurer. Club sports is another category. We're not doing them today, so I'm not going to go over it. And then class council is also another category, which we're not doing today, so I'm not going to go over it. But those 2 have other specific requirements. Are there any questions about the levels? Any clarifications, anything like that? Okay. At this time, I want you all to just go to the Kodiak, go under the current terms finance committee section, and there is a section that Treasurer Piacenza created this morning called proposals, and it has the treasurer's plan with all of the levels on it. And while you all are doing that, I'm going to hand the floor off to Treasurer Piacenza.
You, at this time, I will recommend that the Student Senate approves the level A, B, C, and D, one at a time treasurer plan.
Just A. Well, we're just say
Level A.
A. So moved.
Second.
Okay. We're just doing A. We're not doing. Yeah, we're just doing A first. Then we're going to talk about them. Then we're going to move on to B. I'm going to let you have the floor again, and you can go over the.
Right,
announce.
so these groups are all receiving their complete funding requests that they sent to us. So we did not invite a representative to be here today. So at this time, I recommend the Neuroscience Club receive an allocation of $750. Feminists Unite receive $750. Management Association receiving $250. The Construction Management Association of America received $750. The Math Club receiving $350. The Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers receiving $750. The Criminal Justice Association receiving $250. The Marketing Association requesting and getting $500. The Rocketry Club getting $750. The Commuter Council receiving $750. The Jewish Student Association receiving $750. The Business Analytics Club receiving $650. The Motorsport Club receiving $250. And the Financial Literacy Club receiving $750 for a total of $8,250.
Okay. I already moved it. Oh, well, that is her recommendation. So what we're going to vote on is the batch approving of all of these. So I'm going to ask you all right now, are there any objections to any of these? Because if you object to any of them, I'm amending that recommendation to pull that, and we're going to debate it next week. But these are the full requests of those groups, so I don't see any reason to object to any of those. No? Okay. So we are going to do another poll vote. I will give you all a minute to vote in the group me for that. Yes. You can vote yes, since we're batch approving it. Yes.
For like the list of clubs, I guess you like, Improv on the Rocks is one, and the are those clubs that just haven't put in their recommendation next year yet?
It's not that they haven't put it in. We might have it, and we might have questions for them that we're going to reach out to them to get answers for. We might be recommending a different amount. We might reach out to them and actually recommend that they do more events. Like there's a variety of different circumstances. Myself, Treasurer Piacenza, and Director Grimm met this morning and looked over these budgets specifically that we're asking you guys to approve for all the levels, and we think that they aligned with what we were already planning to give them. So it's just no questions asked about going forward with that. Yeah. Yes.
Another question is that I just have in general, if there's gonna be club movement, this is just for overall club movement and it's not in here yet. Like if they didn't spend much of their budget, will we find that out later on in the process?
Yes. Yeah. These are groups that generally spent what we gave them last year, did not go over by a significant amount, were not under by a significant amount, and made a reasonable request. So that's all we're saying with approving these today. Okay, I'll take one last question, or else I'm going to close the poll, or if someone needs another second to vote, please raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. With 20 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 0 abstentions, the motion passes. Next. Congratulations to all those groups. Now we're gonna move to level B.
All right, at this time, I will recommend that the Student Senate approves the Level B Treasurer Plan.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I will allocate 3 minutes. The floor is yours.
All right. So same thing goes for Level B. We just have we have a lot less this time, but, the gardening club will receive $1,100. They also had an increase in level. They were a level A last year, and we're recommending that they move up to a level B. We have the Society of Women Engineers receiving $1,250, and then the International Club receiving an allocation of $1,250 for a total of $3,600.
Gardening was a level increase, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry.
You're good.
Are there any questions or comments about those? Yes.
I was looking on the Kodiak and like under each like the level B organizations. You only mentioned a few clubs. Are we going to be talking about the other clubs next term as they
Yes.
okay.
Yeah. Again, just
Same
because
thing.
they're not in there getting funds today doesn't mean that they didn't submit their budget. Doesn't mean they're not getting a budget. These are groups that are requesting what we already were planning to give them, and we don't need any further discussion with them. They made a request. We accepted the request.
Oh, so you're just starting early to prepare? No.
Yes.
Mhm.
We're gonna do more budgets next week. Next week are gonna be mainly level D budgets. So yes.
Our club was also a level increase.
We are not funding our club with the B plan.
Yeah.
It's on the list.
Yeah, they're not getting, the only three getting funding in the plan are gardening, Society of Women Engineers, and an International Club. They might be on the list, but that doesn't mean we're allocating the money right now.
Mhm.
Only the ones that have an amount next to them are getting the funds. Yep.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions? I will give a minute for that.
There we go.
I will give it another 15 seconds. Ending the poll. Okay, with 19 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 0 abstentions, the motion passes. Next, I'm going to hand the floor to you for level C.
All right, at this time, I'll recommend that the Student Senate approve the Level C Treasurer Plan.
So moved.
Second.
3 minutes. This is just an allocation to the psych club.
Yeah,
So-
literally, for Level C, we only have one that we're gonna allocate right now, but it's gonna be the Psychology Club for an allocation of $1,750.
Were they an increase? No, okay. So yeah, it's just allocating the psych club 1750. Are there any questions or comments? Yes. From B to C, yeah. I think you guys were on the max for B before, yes,
Yeah.
so they were 750 before, so now they're getting an additional 1,000. Or 1250. Oh, yes, so you're getting an additional 500. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So they are a level increase. They have done a lot of events recently. Their Instagram is probably one of the most active club Instagrams. So I think it's a very well-deserved level increase. Yes, Senator Lucier.
I don't see it on here or on the level D. Where's the historical society listed?
They are under C. It's just not there. They will be in probably the next batch of budgets approved. So we have another document that we've been working on that does have all the requests like lined up. This was just us putting this together for ease of your guys' viewing. But Historical Society will be probably next week. But we do have the Historical Society's request, and they are level C right now. So, any other questions or comments? Okay, I will give it another 30 seconds. Yes. Yeah. I'm gonna end C. Okay. Or I can't end it since you made it. Okay, C has been ended. With 19 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 0 abstentions, the treasurer's plan for level C clubs is accepted. I'm gonna hand the floor to you for level Ds.
At this time, I will recommend that the Student Senate approve the level D treasurer.
So move.
Second.
I'm gonna allocate 3 minutes. The floor is yours.
Right. For level D, we only have 2 that we're gonna be allocating today. The rest will probably be next week or at a future date. But we recommend the Society of Automotive Engineers, Baja, receive an allocation of $7,500, and that CARE receives an allocation of $3,515 for a total of $11,015.
Any questions or comments about that? I will say, just for the minute's sake, and for any of you who will be in Senate for a very long time and maybe become treasurer or president, Baja has a cycle of how much they request. This year, their request is higher than what it will typically be, I believe. I believe it's the higher request year. And I believe they request in like 3-year cycles. So depending on how much work needs to be done on their car, they might request more. So this year, we're working it into our budget to give them a little bit more to do that. And then next year, we're anticipating that they're going to request less because that's just how they operate. Yes.
When you say cycle, is that what the trend has been in the past, or is it like written down somewhere that?
It's the trend, but also just what we've been informed by them because of how they operate and how the competition requirements are. Like every 3 years, they need to request more because they have to do a whole new car. So that's just something that we intend to kind of work into, because if one person's on Senate for 4 full terms, they'll experience that. So we're going to try our best to like work that in, and probably that might be something the treasurer passes down to another treasurer for them to know. Any other questions or comments about that? Okay. The poll is up. I'll give it another 30 seconds. With 20 yes votes, 0 no votes, 0 abstentions, the motion passes. Next week, anticipate representatives from clubs to be here, recommendations for full amounts, recommendations for different amounts, like prepare to talk about budgets. That is going to be the key theme for next week. These were fully funded requests. So there should be no debates. Those treasurers are going to get an email later today. They did not know that we were doing that. But we hope that they will be pleased with that outcome and knowing that their funding is already secured. But be ready for next week. Next, I'm going to allocate a few minutes to Leah Cunha, who's going to read a statement from Vice President Matthews in regards to our meeting last week. So the floor is yours.
Reading what was written for me. So, good afternoon, everyone. I want to take a moment to address the comments and concerns raised about President Johnson's visibility on campus. First, I want to affirm that your desire to see more of him is both understandable and appreciated, and he is aware of your feelings and will honor them. You care deeply about the university and want to feel connected to its leadership, and that matters. President Johnson is not only the president of Western New England University, he is also a respected leader across the region, serving on boards and coalitions that help bring visibility, resources, and opportunity to our institution. These roles, while sometimes taking him away physically from campus, are always done in service of WNE and its future. Like any large organization, a university functions best when leadership is shared. Not every decision or issue rises to the presidential level, nor should it. That is why we have vice presidents and other senior leaders in place to act with authority, make decisions, and ensure your needs are being met. President Johnson has great trust in the leadership team here, and that trust allows us to be responsive to you in real time, even when he cannot be everywhere at once. We are all working together for you. And while the president may not be at every meeting or event, I can assure you that he is engaged, informed, and deeply committed to this community. When you see members of his team show up, it is not in his absence, it is with his full support. I also want to thank you for the kind words expressed by me by the Senate that I respect and appreciate so much. I'm sorry that I cannot be there today personally, and sometime into this meeting I may be able to view it in progress. I'm addressing some personal matters out of state that I could not delay. I will make sure that I answer all questions in full by end of day Wednesday so that they can be further discussed in the executive board meeting we attend each week. I'm very sorry that there are offices that are not responding to Senate requests, and even more importantly, not responding in a timely way to all students. I will address all of these issues, and I encourage any of you facing these challenges to state these to the executive board so that I can resolve them on your behalf. It is my intent to make sure that responses to not only Senate members, but to students take priority. One of the offices mentioned is in my division, and I have already started looking into that, and there will be a solution. I will work with our interim provost to address the academic areas of concern, and I will talk to the deans as well myself. If you can help me with specifics through the executive board, that would make it most efficient for me to address it. Finally, I want to make you a promise. If I know about concerns like what you have brought forward in advance of the Senate meeting, action will already be in progress. For experience, it may be best to move topics of concern through CAN or JES. Along with being senators, you are students. As students, it is always okay to reach out to me or to my leadership group in student life. Leah Cunha, Caitlin Bevitz, JP all have 24/7 access to me and are empowered to help you right away. Of course, you may reach out to me as needed. In general, Leah knows most of what I am working on and my position on issues if I'm absent for any reason. And Caitlin and JP have oversight of all of the student life area. And if I can hear your concerns earlier, I will do my best to fix the issues or to explain what is happening. It is my commitment to make the best experience for you so that I can, with the support of a great leadership team, I am blessed to have. I appreciate all of you, and I support the great work that the Senate does and will do in the future.
Thank you. I am going to have Vice President Cloutier put out a Microsoft forum for you guys to submit questions to Greg directly about that, and we're going to share the questions with him. The last time Leah came and read a statement to Senate, obviously you're not Greg, and you do know a lot about what exactly is being worked on and can answer a lot, but there were some questions too, especially given the severity of that discussion, that are better off just directly answered by him. And as he said, he is willing to answer them. So please take advantage of that as senators. Please submit questions that you might have for him directly, and we will try and get a written response, or if he tells us something in eBoard that he wants us to share with you guys, we will share it out to you as soon as possible. Does that make sense, and is that good with everyone? Okay. Now we are going to move into the approval of the rules package. You have to make the motion. You have to make the motion. Constitutionally, you have to make the motion.
I motion for the approval of the 2025-2026.
Second. I'm going to allocate 10 minutes to this discussion. We're probably not going to use that entire clock, but the rules package is a very long document. So that is also up in the Kodiak, and I also emailed that to all of you directly. So please take a moment to pull it up. I myself, as the original writer of the first ever Senate rules, and then also in collaboration with Vice President Cloutier as the person in charge of enforcing these rules, have both condensed, standardized, made more consistent, more cohesive what the old rules package was, and then also basically cut a lot of the red tape with the committees and the committee chairs, basically empowering them to do a lot more outside of the Senate meeting, or directly saying that they are empowered to do a lot more, which wasn't directly stated anywhere before besides the Constitution. Let's start literally at the top. The purpose, as it says, the rules are supposed to supplement the Constitution. They do not supersede the Constitution. If there is something that runs in contrary to it, Legislative Chairperson Amaya is and has the full authority to strike it down. That doesn't mean the entire rules package would be struck down, but it means that section would be. So if there's something where the way that we are applying it or the way that something is written is in direct contradiction to the Constitution, she has the authority to do that. Again, this just establishes clear rules for our meetings, behaviors, committees, finances, procedures. Rule 1 is about our meetings. We have general meetings every Tuesdays, 12:45 when the university is open during the academic year. Once a month, we will be doing report meetings going forward. Reports will be due by Sunday before each report meeting. Special meetings can also happen outside normal time, and as per the Constitution, they are at the president's discretion. Executive sessions can be called during general or special meetings, and they're for confidential matters. They're limited to 1 per meeting, and they can go into effect either when a member of the executive board calls for one, or if one of you motions for one and there's a 2/3 majority approval for it to happen. So those are the 2 circumstances. In most circumstances, please talk with a member of the e-board. If you want us to go into an executive session, just have us put us into it, because it's easier to just do it that way before the meeting. But if you think that there's a valid emergency where you don't want it to be public, but you think the Senate needs to talk about it, you do have the authority to ask us to go into it. Are there any questions about that, the special meetings, the general meetings, executive sessions? No. Then gallery rules. The gallery is to be opened unless an executive session. Disruptions can lead to the galleries being cleared at the discretion of the president. The live stream should be on, but they are at the discretion of the PR chair and the president. If we do not meet a quorum, which is half plus 1 of voting membership, then we are allowed to do report-only meetings where we are not allowed to pass motions. I can only move for roll call and move for adjournment. We could just talk. That is typically used during our report meetings because those take forever. And then agendas, they should be posted 24 hours in advance with a final copy given out at the meeting. And you guys all have the authority to reach out and the power to reach out, discretion to reach out to myself and Vice President Cloutier to add stuff to the agenda. Obviously, we are the main 2 putting it together. As you'll see in the Vice President section, is moving under the Vice President's responsibility going forward. So please feel free to reach out to her if you think that we should be talking about something and something needs to be on the agenda. The way that we are the most successful is if you guys are doing that. Obviously, the e-board are the main people putting stuff on there, but we can talk about more, especially since the committees are going to be doing more on their own, if you guys are putting stuff to the table too. On top of that, at the beginning of the meeting, after we accept the minutes, if you want to raise your hand and amend new and existing business, you have the power to do that too. You all have the power to put forward motions and amend stuff. So anything, literally anything that we put forward, you all have the power to do it too. It's just our job to facilitate that directly. So please keep that in mind. Are there any questions about agendas, quorum, live stream, gallery? No. Okay. Next is voting. So we follow Robert's Rules of Order, our legislative chair, or motions, amendments, and voting. We follow Robert's Rules of Order. Legislative chair is our parliamentarian as per the Constitution. When we do motions, you guys have the power to amend them, but they need to remain germane, which means that if we have a motion put forward about CARES budget, you can't amend it to and we're just specifically talking about CARES budget. You can't amend it to allocate money to some other club. If we are specifically just doing that, the plan was a batch approval of all those clubs and organizations. If we have a motion to accept a letter, you can't amend the motion to add an allocation to a club. Those need to be done separately. The motions are for one specific reason, and if you are amending it, you are amending that motion as it is to help better tailor it towards that reason that it was put forward. Does that make sense? Okay. If something is not germane, literally anyone can raise their hand and just be like, this is going beyond the scope of a motion and we need to stop. We will address it when that comes up, and I would probably point of order it and we'd strike it down at that time. And then there's also a list of permissible motions while another motion is under consideration. If we adjourn or suspend the meeting or something like that while something's under consideration, it automatically moves to existing business for the next meeting. But the list there is what you're empowered to do while we're already talking about a motion that's on the table. The next one is code of conduct. This is very important because this is what could directly lead to your impeachment outside of, or any of our impeachment outside of the Constitution. So absences, this is one that goes outside of just impeachment too. Two illegal absences leads to automatic removal. It is at the discretion of the president, so I would have the authority to sign off on that. I would receive a recommendation from Secretary Kilday in that circumstance, and most often when we've had illegal absences that hit 2 or more, we do outreach. And again, that's why discretion exists. And if there is things that came up that were emergencies that you weren't able to report, like, we're always going to take that step to talk first, but that is the standard of where it needs to hit in order for removal to even be in the consideration. Missing or late reports count as absences. That is your most important duty as senators, and there is no excuse if they are monthly to not turn in a report. If your constituency misses a report, all of you are getting an absence for that. You need to work together on that. You need to get those in on time. They are once a month. Do not miss the deadline. If you are going to miss the deadline, reach out to Secretary Kilday. Again, the secretary has discretions with extending due dates and stuff like that. If you have something that you know that you can say, but you just haven't had the time to write it out due to some other thing coming up, that's the perfect reason to reach out to Secretary Kilday and ask for an extension on it. When you go into the report meeting, say it, turn in the paper one before the minutes are due. But please get them in Sunday before the report meeting. And if you can't, reach out. Does that make sense? Okay. Are there any questions about absences or missing or late reports? No. Okay. Notification deadlines. Again, general meetings, 48 hours in advance for non-emergency, anytime for emergencies. Committee meetings are 24 hours in advance. Same thing, anytime for emergencies. Call, text, email. Please, 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 if you are going to miss a meeting, regardless of emergency, non-emergency, unless there's some reason where, like, you need to keep it very, very private and you're not comfortable sharing some information for whatever reason, email Secretary Kilday and CC myself and Vice President Cloutier. That is how you should do it going forward. If you have to text us, if you have to group me us for an emergency, totally understandable. Afterwards, email Secretary Kilday and CC us, because that is the best way to keep track of it. Secretary Kilday is the one keeping track of it. She needs to be informed. I obviously give the excusals. They have the authority to give excusals too. But please, 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 for tracking purposes, email Secretary Kilday, number one. Any questions or comments about that? Okay. Tardies are late arrivals or early exits. 2 excused tardies will equivalent to 1 illegal absence. Excusals, appropriate excusals are illness, class, exams, athletics, etc. Group projects and homework are not appropriate excusals. If you have questions about that, again, reach out to myself or Vice President Cloutier. Again, we have more discretion than just what's written there, but those should be pretty self-explanatory. Are there any questions about tardies or excusals? No. Okay. Other policies: dress code, business casual or approved Senate attire. There's a whole list of information there. This is publicly available to all of you, so please refer to that. And if you have questions, again, reach out to us. Respectful conduct is expected at all times. We have had issues with that in the past, and I am not afraid to go in front of the Senate and put forward an impeachment motion against someone for not being respectful towards each other, towards members of our community. It's unacceptable. And there have been instances in the past where, like, that has been brought up. Again, I will try my best to sit down with people, give them warnings, and be as fair as possible. But we have standards to maintain. We have important conversations that need to be had. We need to show each other respect, even if we disagree. So there's no circumstances where that will ever be acceptable. And again, I will try my best to be fair. I will try my best to sit down with you. Secretary Kilday will sit down with you. Vice President Cloutier will sit down with you. Reach out to Bridget, Director Graham, as our advisor, and talk with her. There's so many resources for you guys to go to. There's no excuse for that not to be followed. Abuse of power, bribery, or conflicts of interest are prohibited. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Confidentiality required for sensitive matters. That's specifically in regards to executive sessions. Senators and alternates. Senators must be present and vote unless excused. obviously. Alternates must be approved 24 hours in advance. Please email Secretary Kilday if your alternate will be here, just so we know. If your alternate comes in 4 times without notice, it will be assumed that you have vacated your seat, and I will have the authority to offer your seat to your alternate. That can be avoided if you just email Secretary Kilday, I'm unavailable for the month, emergency came up, something like that. But if there's no communication, then that will happen. And there have been issues with that in the past. That is why this is a rule. If the alternate is going to do your job, then they are going to get your job. It's as simple as that. Any questions or comments about alternates? No. Okay. The president section, it explains how I call us in the meetings, maintain decorum. I can excuse people from meetings. I assign senators to committees. That's also in the Constitution. I also approve committee changes. I'm charged with verifying the GPA requirement. That's kind of hard because the school doesn't share that information with me. But if something does come up where like that is an issue, then I might have to sit down with some of you and recommend that you leave your seat. Because as the leader of this group, like I do care about all of you. It's more important that you stay here at Western New England as a student than remain a member of the Senate, in my view. So if that ever does come up where I do find out information about that and we need to have a conversation about it, no, it's out of care. It's not out of like, well, any other reason besides the fact that I care. I just want you to be here and a member of this community. It doesn't mean that you can't participate with us. It doesn't mean you can't be a visitor. It doesn't mean you can't be a part of another club. Clubs have e-board GPA requirements. We have it for our entire membership. So please prioritize your academics. That's why you're here. Get your degree at the end of the day. And then I have declassification and confidential authority. Vice president is the next rule. Agendas is under Vice President Cloutier's responsibilities for this term. That's something that we talked about, and we figured it would be good to actually assign the vice president a job besides enforcing the rules. So that is Vice President Cloutier's job going forward. The vice president's a liaison. That's also in the Constitution. And they're here to help you guys. So please reach out to Vice President Cloutier if you need help with your roles, if you're confused about anything. Executive board. This is basically breaking down the appointed executives, what their main jobs are. When I talk about facilitating things that we are charged with doing, that is what this falls under. If anything listed there, they are not making an honest attempt at doing, and they have been warned about that going forward, then an impeachment motion could come forward from me for dereliction of duty, because they are getting paid to do their job. If they are not doing their jobs, then that is an issue. And obviously, again, we're going to work with all the executives the same way we would work with all of you. We'd try and find and exhaust every other solution. But if people aren't cooperating, they're not doing their jobs and still accepting payment for it, that's just unacceptable. And there's no like reasonable excuse for it. That's also just unacceptable. Any questions about president, vice president, appointed executives? No? Okay. Appointed officers. So in previous terms, we called them liaisons. That's what the Secretary of Academic Affairs was originally called. We wanted to kind of expand that because going forward with the events chair and the, if you saw a early version of next agenda or of this agenda, the undersecretary, which is something new that we want to introduce too, are not necessarily liaisons in all their capacities. So they're going to be considered appointed officers of the Senate. They are term positions. They require your approval of the position and your approval of my appointment in order for them to go into effect. Special committee chairs also fall under these category of officers automatically. Special committee chairs are constitutionally chartered. So that's why they're like, we have a little bit of leniency with like how exactly we go forward with approving the committees. Like health and well-being is a constitutionally chartered committee. That's why I didn't give you a document explaining what exactly they do. It's already in our Constitution. So they're considered under that broad range of individuals and appointed positions that would be considered officers of the Senate. When we propose these, like with the events chair, it will specify whether or not they keep their seat as a senator and obtain that title as a separate role too, or if that seat as an officer supersedes their position as a senator and they need to vacate their seat. The events chair, they need to vacate their seat, and they will be given a separate seat over here with the executives as an officer, and someone else would be able to run for that seat, or their alternate would be able to pick it up. But the undersecretary, for example, that will be an uncommitted senator. They will not be assigned to finance, legislative, PR, CR, and they will be the undersecretary of the Senate. They will be the secretary's helper. So again, there's a broad range of discretion in how exactly that is. When those come up, you guys are more than free to ask questions, make amendments to them if you don't like how certain things are written, or if you want things to be more clearly defined. Any questions about appointed officers of the Senate? Standing committees. This is giving the committees autonomous authority, essentially, and the ability to call hearings, the ability to send formal notices, the ability to do their jobs, essentially. Without this formally written, they can't enforce rules. They can't do things autonomously. So it's giving broad authority to the committees and the chairs to call meetings, to call hearings. How exactly they track attendance is all up to the chairs. It's all up to their discretion. So when you're assigned a committee, reach out to your chair. Any questions about that? Okay. Finance committee. These are all very important. And if you have an issue with something and you want to amend something, I think these would be the things that you guys should all look at. Finance committee can autonomously allocate up to $500 per request to a club and organization. They have an allowance of $10,000 for autonomous allocations. This is our immaterial allocations policy. This is something that was put out 2 terms ago by President Alvord, and we worked it into the rules package last term, and I wanted to rework it in again. And then on top of that, they have autonomous reclamation authority of under $500 with the treasurer's consent of that club or organization. So if a club or organization treasurer comes to us and says, we're not going to spend our money, and it's under $500, then they can just automatically do it. It goes back into our budget. They can also freeze budgets, and there's further information about that in a later rule. But it requires a 2/3 majority vote of the finance, or 2/3 majority vote of the finance committee, I believe. Are there any questions about the finance committee and their autonomous powers? Okay. Legislative committee. They oversee our governing documents, the facilitation of new clubs and organizations, amendments to club and organization constitutions, and internal policies. We, this term, are going to autonomously give them the authority, to autonomously amend club constitutions. This is going to take a lot of time off of Senate's docket, because we spend a lot of time just being like, the club wants us to amend their constitution. Everyone approved it. The legislative committee approved it. They approved it. Okay, let's vote on it. No longer. The legislative committee will vote on it. Once they vote on it, it's approved. Are there any questions about that? Okay. The next thing is a big change, because a lot of clubs and organizations do not respond to Legislative Chairperson Amaya's request to amend their constitutions. And this is a huge step in the direction of getting them to do that, because if they don't have a clause in their constitution that allows them to impeach their executives, going forward, they can now do a hearing with the legislative committee to do it. The way to go around that, if you want the autonomy to do it, add it to your constitution, talk to the legislative committee, update it. A lot of them haven't been updated for 3 years. You have to go to them every 3 years to do it. When she reaches out, don't ignore her going forward. If you want that autonomy, get it yourself. We're opening the door for you to get it. If you don't have it in there and you fail to do it, don't complain to us when that's the way that you have to do it. This has come up multiple times last term. Multiple executives came to us. Our hands were tied. Executives are breaking their constitutions. This is a simple fix to it. If they want a fair and balanced way to approach impeachment, and they don't want to add it to their constitution, or it wasn't in it before, the legislative committee is here to handle that. And again, it goes with conflict of interest and the code of conduct policy too. If you have a conflict of interest and you're on the legislative committee, you cannot vote on that impeachment. And again, it was stated in the committee section, but any autonomous actions done by the committees or the chairs need to be reported at the next Senate meeting. So if a club executive is impeached, you all can hear about it. You all can overturn it too. If that person comes in and says, I disagree with the legislative committee's decision, now I'm asking you as the Senate to overturn that decision, you can put that forward. So there is a multi-chamber of ways that there are checks and balances with this too. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. Campus relation. Promotes engagement with the campus community, formally recognizes community members without going directly to Senate outside of our awards. They can do polls and surveys without getting approval from the Senate, just the approval of the chair. And then they're proposing capital projects, both Senate or university funded, to us or to the Finance Committee, and then there's specific outlines for that too. Public Relations Committee manages our social media and branding. They don't need to go to Senate to get every little post approved. They can do press releases without getting Senate's approval. They can run outreach events. The budgets would need to be approved, but those events themselves don't necessarily need to be. And they can act independently on events within budget and mission of the Senate and the committee. Special committees, those are formed for specific purposes. They can recruit members from outside of Senate to be within their membership. They get autonomous powers if the Senate approves it with the 2/3 majority vote. I doubt we will ever give a special committee autonomous powers to do anything. But if there's an emergency committee that comes up and we really need them to do something, I wanted that in there just in case. Any questions about CR, PR, special committees? Okay. Fiscal powers, freezing budgets. This is the same as last term. I don't think there should be a lot of questions about that. It lists how we freeze budgets, how we unfreeze budgets. Reclamations and penalties is the same as last term. Treasurer and finance chair has the ability to veto those. And we must notify clubs ahead of time of a penalty. Reclamations are different. There's a different standard for those. Rules enforcement are under the vice president. It talks about the possible outcomes, warnings, suspensions, or recommendations to the president to suspend a senator or an executive for up to 7 days, or impeachment at the discretion of president and legislative chair. All discretionary actions should be reported to the executive board and in certain circumstances to the rest of you as senators and as voting members of the Senate, typically in regards to impeachment motions. Does all that make sense? Okay. Are there any questions about any part of the rules package, any amendments, anything you want to strike from it, anything at all? This is our governing document. Well, the last section is amendments too. You guys can move for an amendment at any time throughout the term. You could literally raise your hand as long as something isn't under consideration. It has to change if that happens. Okay. I am going to put another poll in the group me. Yeah. Chairperson Greenwood's going to put another poll in the group me. And just for we have to wait for that poll to be done before we do anything else because we're passing everything else. So I'm not going to move on to another conversation while that's happening. I will give it 30 seconds just because we are running short on time and there's a few things I want us to approve. Is there anyone else that still needs to vote? Okay, with 19 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 0 abstentions, the motion passes. Next, we are going to move into officer appointments for today. So at this time, I move for the Senate to accept my appointment of Natalia Miller to be the International Student Affairs Committee Chairperson for the 2025-2026 term. Okay, I'm going to speed through this a little bit. Senator Miller reached out to us with an interest of chairing this committee. Senator Desai is not back this year or for next term to chair it, but I know she also reached out to Senator Desai with the same interest. And I think it's very important for us to have this committee. It was established under my term last term. And I think it's good for Senate to have a committee to specifically talk about our international students and what exactly is going on in that community and what they need help with. So are there any questions or comments about this? Okay, seeing none. I'm going to move for a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? One abstention. The motion passes. I'm going to quickly do your oath of office. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Natalia Miller,
Do solemnly swear that I will,
do solemnly swear that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
fulfill the duties and responsibilities
fulfill the duties and responsibilities
of International Student Affairs Committee Chairperson,
of International Student Affairs Committee Chairperson,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will to the best of my ability
uphold and follow
uphold and follow
the policies of the Student Senate and the Student Senate Constitution.
the policies of the Student Senate and the Student Senate Constitution.
Congratulations. Now, since that committee has an appointed chair, at this time, I move for Senate to activate the International Student Affairs Committee.
Second.
Okay, are there any questions or comments about that? Seeing none, we will do a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? The motion passes. Next, I'm going to have us quickly approve SSR 03. SSR stands for Student Senate Reoccurring Policy. There's a policy manual under the President's section now of all the policies that Senate has passed in the past. The student leadership stipend policy actually originated in our rules package. I don't want that to stop groups from getting their stipends going forward. I want this to be something that's reoccurring. If we have it as a policy and it just goes forward from term to term unless the Senate amends it or suspends it, then the stipends that we approve from CAB and from ourselves will automatically roll over under that policy too. So this way the Senate doesn't need to constantly bring up the same conversations every year, especially if those things are going to remain consistent. Does that make sense? So at this time, I move for Senate to accept SSR 03. Okay, are there any questions or comments about that? This is, again, is something that already existed. It's just changing what exactly it's under. Okay, seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? The motion passes. Next, we are going to do a term policy, and this will be an officer at the Senate. So at this time, I move for Senate to accept SST 01, the creation of the special events chair position.
Second.
Okay. Very quickly, because I know we have about 5 minutes and we're technically over time. We wanted to centralize the person who is in charge of the special events that are under Senate's purview and have been under Senate's purview for years now. The three main events are Sex Week, class competition, which last year was known as Clash of the Classes and formerly known as Midnight Madness, and Spring Event. On top of that, I wanted this chair to have the authority to put forward ideas for Senate-sponsored events going forward as well. So with the approval of this, you guys are essentially making it so instead of those special committees are going to be chaired under this person once they're appointed. Those special committees are, again, chartered by our Constitution too. So we are approving the chair of those three committees, and they will immediately begin work on those even before those committees are activated. And we will move to activate them when the time comes, like for Spring Event, when it's time to get the Spring Event e-board set up. We will move to activate the Spring Event committee when that time comes. But that chair can start working on Spring Event in the fall or in the beginning of the fall instead of late fall, beginning of the spring, and really gives them a head start. And again, this is something that's comparable to other student governments and stuff too, and how they operate, or other groups that do spring events. They get started way earlier than we do. We're always behind the ball game. This is an attempt to get us ahead. So are there any questions or comments about this position? Okay, if it's approved by you guys, myself and Vice President Kluter will put out information about applying for it. We want to have it open to the entire campus community because these are special committee chair positions. That does not limit you guys from applying for it too. Again, my commitment to all of you with all appointments are to pick the best person for the job, and I will do the same thing with this, especially with something that is super important. This person will represent Senate at our biggest events. All right, so I'm going to move for a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Those abstaining? The motion passes. These are under the president's section of the Kodiak. I'm going to quickly open it for visitors and senators' comments and executives. I'm sorry, I'm going to cut your reports. Yes.
To my newly appointed chairs for your committees, I will be sending you an email and I want pictures, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you'll get that. Thank you.
Any other senators or visitors' comments?
Fine.
Oh, yes.
Just as a quick note, I am having a meeting with the registrar tomorrow. So if anybody has any screenshots or anything that they want me to bring as a comment, concern, or something moving forward, please email me directly before tomorrow so that I can bring that to their attention.
Senator Lucy.
This is the last day for it. If you haven't signed up to volunteer for spring event, please do that.
Yes, especially those of you who were on Senate last term.
One more thing about that. It is required and you do have to be there. It is a Senate requirement for you to volunteer for that. So if you have not filled out that form yet, fill it out now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Again, if there's extenuating circumstances, email myself or Chair Brown for that, but you all should be there if you're available. For newer members, obviously there wasn't a lot of notice with that, so there's a little bit more leniency for you guys. But for everyone else, especially for those of you returning, that is a mandate. If you have not reached out yet, we will count that as an absence. That will be your first absence. So please reach out. Any questions or comments about that? Okay. So any other last second senators, executive comments, visitors' comments? Okay, I move to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. Look out on the group me, since all of you were here today, for the voice votes, because we still want to get the tallies for those. So we're going to put those in. For Greg.